Today's episode of a Hero's Journey podcast is brought to you by S&P Inc. Let them rebuild your confidence. And JPS Computers. Jesse, shout out to you, buddy. Thank you so much for taking care of us. And to the new listeners, Rock Rage Radio. Thank you for listening to Danielle and I every Monday night at 9 o'clock. What's crazy is we are just here to remind you that you are the hero of your own story. And we're hoping that every guest that we have here inspires you, as we know that we're sitting here being inspired. So I'm going to pass it along to my co-host, Danielle. I want you to introduce our guest today.
Welcome back to a Hero's Journey podcast, everyone. I'm Danielle Vasanova with Brian Hopkins, and it is my absolute pleasure to welcome the one, the only, Jamie Villamor, the actress, model, entrepreneur, sponsored sharpshooter, and overall badass. Jamie, welcome.
And she's beautiful.
And gorgeous.
Thank you so much for having me. What an intro. You guys, watching your whole intro has inspired me to redo mine.
Oh, thank you.
We need some work on our podcast now.
And your podcast is called, for everybody out there,
Dating Intelligence.
What direction is that? Because I've watched from the hallway.
Yeah. Okay. So what would you, from the small parts that you've seen, what would you think it is?
It's crazy. It's literally, for me, it's like you're sitting there getting advice from your guests, like the dating world, and I'm hearing some crazy stuff. So I didn't want to go into that. Like,
Tell Brian about the guest yesterday.
Which one?
You had like 3, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. We had 3. But I don't want to give too much away.
Yeah, don't. Yeah.
But
some very interesting guests.
We have very eclectic. We have very business-minded, professional, like
a mix.
Yes, a whole mix.
Yeah.
I'm probably a little more conservative in that avenue, to where the host, Christopher, is a little more out there, which I love, because
that's a good balance.
Yes,
right?
I've learned so much from him.
Yeah.
Yeah, but after
was that your idea?
No, it was his idea.
Okay.
Yeah, so we met, I want to say, like 15 years ago in the modeling industry, and then he started his show, and he was like, "Hey, I would really like to have you as a guest." And
you met him in New York or LA?
I met him at a show. I want to say, I don't remember. Maybe it was Texas, and then I was hosting a club opening, and I invited him, and he was in Atlanta, and so yeah, we've just always kind of ended up crossing paths.
Love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So.
And you guys have been doing it for about a year now.
Yeah, we've been doing it a little over a year. But to answer your original question, it's, dating intelligence is more so a play on words. So it's almost like dating in all aspects of life. Like, we've had like a few guests, and they're like, "Well, why would I come on? I'm married." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you should still be like dating."
Right.
We talk about like dating our clients. So we had someone, and my kids saw the book, and they're like, "Mom, dating your clients? Like, what is this?" And so he just goes into like how, when you're, going into different like entrepreneurial things, like how you should look at it in a sense like dating, like the clients and people you work with. So it's more like a play on words and just, everyday life.
Or even dating yourself.
Yeah,
right? For
sure. Yeah, I'm single, so.
There you go.
So yeah, he always wants my dating stories, and I'm like. So.
I love it.
Yeah.
So where are you from originally?
Originally, Las Vegas, born and raised.
Born and raised.
Yeah.
Wow.
What about you? You're.
East Coast.
Okay.
Well, my family's from Europe. He and I are both Cherokee and Sioux, but I'm also Czech. So my family's from Europe, but born and raised in Connecticut and New York City.
Okay.
And then been out here for a while. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Did you always know that you wanted to go into the entertainment industry?
No.
Really?
I'm so shy.
So how'd that come about then? If you didn't know, like,
you
what
guys,
happened?
I always say this. I feel like even modeling in general, like I was such a tomboy growing up, like
Same.
It's something that always just kind of found me. So as much as I tried to like swerve and get away from it, it always presented itself in a way. So, there was a time when I just tried to push it away and then learn to embrace it and just pick and choose the things that I felt aligned with me at that time.
Right, and you said tomboy.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah,
tomboy,
Tell
like
us about that.
come on, like you walk in and it's like this presence enters the room, and I didn't see tomboy, but when I did, I remember, I watched and paid attention, and now I follow you on social media, and you're a sharpshooter and do all these really talk about that. Like, that's really cool. How did that come about?
So I think a lot of people assume that I've been shooting for forever, but it's really something that, again, like presented itself in my path about 4 years ago, and I hopped on board, loved it, and then just ran with it. But I mean, younger, I had 2 brothers, 5 uncles, so I never did anything girly growing up. I always say if I was born in this time, like, I would definitely be the one that's going to school dressed like a boy. Like, my dad would be like, put on a shirt, like, you are a girl. And I'm like, no, I'm just like the boys. But
you're a tomboy, girly girl, right?
I played football. I watched sports. Like, I didn't do anything girly growing up.
How are you single then?
I think I'm so comfortable in my own space, and I travel by myself. So just I've always been very like independent that I don't really seek it. And
right.
Yeah. So if it comes, then great.
Who taught you how to shoot?
JJ Rakaza. He's the best shooter in the world.
Wow.
Yeah.
How did you meet him?
So I'm kind of a perfectionist. And I was cast for a show that was being filmed in Australia. So they took about 100 or so swimsuit lingerie models, and they put us like in a group. So they're like, we're gonna see who the top 10 are, and then the top 4 would get contracts for the show. And they made fun of me all the time. Like, they were like, this girl's awful. She sucks. Like, she's never going to be good.
Wow.
I think it was a lot of military training, tactical training. So they were and I had like 15 years, like martial arts. So that type of, to where most girls would like buckle. Mm-hmm. And then modeling, like, we're used to rejection. So that was the motivation for me. So when everyone would be like crying or like, I can't believe they said that to you and you're coming back, I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna win this fucking show.
Yeah, perfect.
Yes, girl.
Yeah. So I got my little booty online, and I'm like, who's the best shooter in the world? And it just so happened, I'm like, oh, JJ Rakaza. Guess what? He owns a shop in Las Vegas. So I marched to my little butt right in the shop, and and he was like, and I'm like, yo, can you get me accurate? And he was looking at me like, what the hell are you talking about? And I'm like, well, I know you shoot competitions, but I'm doing this show. Like, can you help me get better? And he was like, yeah, meet me on the range tomorrow at such and such time. So I went out there and, worked a little bit with him and ended up making the top 4. And
how cool. So what was the name of the show? Can we find it?
No, you can't, because I actually, when they presented the contract, I said, fuck off. I'm doing my own thing now. And they ended up suing me. So,
what?
Really?
But,
no way.
Yeah. So long story short, I started a YouTube, had to pull down my YouTube. And to this day, we're friends. Like, I don't want to mention his name, but I was like, it's not going to be a fit for me. And I took it another direction and actually started competing because I valued the sport side of it.
Sure.
Oh, that's cool.
So,
how long have you been doing it for?
4 years.
Oh, only 4 years? Wow.
Yeah. But I travel all over the world, and it's so funny because I compete so there's like world shoot. So my second match was a level 5 match. So these are people that have been training their whole life for like world shoot. And I'm in there like having shot for not even a year on the super squad with all the top shooters.
Wow.
And when they're like going through a stage, it's like da 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 da. And then I get up and I'm like, bop, 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 bop. And I know everyone's like, where the hell did this girl come from and why is she here? But I think people, they just loved me. So I ended up getting like a huge fan base. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not out here winning matches, but I'm inspiring other people to like jump in and try something new.
That's
so
really
I
cool.
think that is what kind of separated me. And being a female in a male-dominated
Right.
like industry, I think people gravitated to that.
Are you
So-
big into visualization?
Yes, huge into manifestation and visualizing.
What are some things that you do? Like, could you imagine yourself there when you were a young girl?
No,
No.
I could have never. Okay, so you know how sometimes we're like, you know, we get in these positions, they're like, what's your 5-year goal? Like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Right.
I laugh when people ask me that because I'm like, there's no way that I could have even thought like 75% of what's transpired in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always open to what the universe brings to me, and it's based on a feeling. So we either feel it and go with it,
You're right.
or we pass. And it's okay.
Right.
Sometimes we pass on things and they end up presenting themselves later on.
Yeah.
So I always say it's okay to say no, but you have to go with your gut.
Well,
Always.
it's crazy. A hero's journey, when you break it down, it says that we're all in this circle, and the thing that you're supposed to be doing keeps presenting itself
Yeah.
to you until you actually say it. It's like even in the movies, like Star Wars or whatever. Luke Skywalker is supposed to be, you know, he's the hero of this journey, but it just keeps presenting himself till he actually steps through and
Right.
does it, and then you know you're on the right path. And sitting in here doing this, you said you were a guest on your podcast that is
Yeah.
now you're the co-host. That's what happened with us. This is only
Same.
yeah, it's the same thing. She sat right here as my guest, and then an hour later we were discussing where she's at now, and it's become so much more. So, and
I
it's
love
that
that.
whole
But
thing.
trust your
is-
gut is huge, right?
Yeah.
Because I was like,
Yeah.
okay, yes, you know?
Right.
I was
We
like, yeah, let's
ignore
do-
that intuition all the time. And
All
I
the time.
always say, you guys, those are like our angels, it's God, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it. But we know, like intuitively, we know where we're supposed to be. We just don't always listen.
Right. Isn't
Right.
it fun doing things that you're not supposed to? I mean, not that you're not supposed to, but the way the outside world is looking in, going,
Yeah.
you shouldn't be doing that.
Yes.
But you're doing it, and
Yeah.
you're going, see, you know,
And
like
I love like being like, I can do whatever I want in this world. Like
Right.
we literally have no limitations.
Love
Like
that.
life and this whole space that we're in is just so limitless. So I always say we can be and do whatever we want in this life. Like
There's such freedom in
we
that,
are
isn't it?
only limitation.
right.
Yeah.
So yeah, when they said you can't, I'm like,
Watch me.
Exactly. Watch me.
Like
Yeah.
Right.
before I maybe not have really cared and been like, you know, whatever, this is cool.
Yeah.
But the second you're like, she's not gonna do good in this, I'm like, yeah.
Watch.
And then that's just like I love when people tell me no. Like
You're
even
like,
in
"I'm gonna do it
modeling,
anyway."
like I'm
Yeah.
gonna kick down the door. Like I may not be like the hottest girl or have this or that, but I'm gonna work the fucking hardest. Like I'm
That's
gonna
awesome.
show up.
Yep.
And I guarantee you, no one will outwork me. Like you may have X, Y, and Z going for you, but like I'll outlast anyone. And that's like a fire that, you know,
It's
either
that
you
fire that
have or-
burns within,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. You have it or you don't.
Persistence and dedication trumps talent half the time.
Yeah,
Because you
that's
have
this
that
one next to
burn.
me. That's the way she is, and that's the way I approached things. I'm, you know, sitting in this chair, not knowing that this was going to happen. I was talking about that this morning at home, going, "Wow, this thing is taking on a whole new life." Mark just flew here to be with us, and that's what this is. You know, that's what we do. I get up every day. How can I outwork yesterday?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm out to do. You know, so. And I'm
We have another guest,
creative,
Dewan, on our show, and he is the host of a Think Bigger podcast and Think Bigger coaching, and that's what you're doing, right? You're not thinking, you know, outside the box. You're thinking like there is no box, and
No,
it's you're
yeah.
always thinking bigger.
Yeah.
I can do anything
Yeah.
that I want.
Yeah.
I love that.
I really feel that. Yeah.
love that.
try and.
Who were some of your greatest inspirations?
Ooh,
growing up?
so I read that, and I didn't really have any role models growing up. So there was no one that I ever looked up to or said I want to be like them. I think it all came from here. So yeah, I grew up in a very abusive home. I was on my own at 15. So it's nothing that's like I can't teach someone.
Wow.
It's
But there's inspiration in that because you're like, okay, I want change, right?
I guess, yeah. So if anything, I watched the destruction and knew that I was meant for something different.
So, but
Yeah.
you know,
But I'm grateful. I'm
yeah.
very grateful for my experiences along the way because
Yeah.
I feel like they've shaped me into the person that I am.
Well, you know, it's crazy because we all find our mentors and people who, whether we've met them or not, there are magazines that you've picked up. There are posters on walls, or they're, you know, like being told you can't do something and seeking out that person that's really good at that. And he was the mentor to you in that moment.
During that time, you're
exactly. He
right.
guided you through that.
Yeah.
And then through your social media, like through modeling, things like that, I guarantee there were 2 or 3 people that you tried to model your workings the way you want it to be, and they mentored you without you even knowing that was going on.
I would say inspired for
Exactly.
sure. Like I wish I had a mentor growing
Right.
up, like someone that I felt safe with that could help guide me, but I didn't really have it. I didn't have that.
But
like,
you'll be that to somebody else
For sure.
because of the fact that you didn't have it. I'm sure you're doing it now.
I will give and help
Yeah.
any and everyone that I feel like there's no such thing as competition unless I'm like we're playing a game of darts or something.
Right.
I'm like
And then, yeah.
competitive, but especially like in modeling, like I was always willing to share any and everything with everyone because there's so much work out there that it's limitless. So I was never the one that was like, oh, I'm not going to share this and keep it to myself. I wanted to share with everybody. When like even with like plastic surgery, if girls are like, hey, have you done X, Y, and Z? I say and tell everything. I'm like, yes, I had this done. This is the best doctor. I love this doctor. Try this one. So I share any and everything.
Well, because you go into those things scared though too. You're gonna,
Well, some girls
need-
want to covet things. They don't want to share the information
Right.
because it's fear. It's
Right.
fear-based, So you're like, there's nothing to be afraid of. Share everything. Share the wealth.
Yeah,
because
and I
whatever's
have
meant for
like,
people.
if someone doesn't want to share, I'm so indifferent. Like I don't care one way or the other.
Yeah.
I know how I am, and I want to help and share like any and everything.
That's awesome.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But even growing up, in an abusive home, that in and of itself, there's so many, kids that go through similar circumstances. And even though you didn't have a mentor, that sort of lit that fire within you to know that you wanted to do something else with your life, right?
If somebody's listening
Sure.
to at home right now or watching
Yeah.
this, going through the same thing, knowing that, I could be you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, slide in my DM.
You know what I'm saying?
Like I try and answer all my DMs and anyone that I can help at all. I'm
That's
all about
awesome.
It. Like I will say I feel like the school system here and in a lot of places they fail us. So there were so many times like I went to school or reached out to my counselors or
Did you go to a public school here?
I went to a public school here. So I was abused as a child, but so you go and you talk to these people where you think it's a safe place, and then these kids still have to go home.
Right.
And we look up to our parents and we think that they're the greatest things because that's all we know. And then you wonder, you just assume that everyone else is being
Right.
treated the way you're treated. And then it's like they tell the parents, and then your parents are like, you have to say this, or you're going to be here and it's going to be a million times worse, and your brothers are going to get taken away. So then we lie. So I feel like our system is very broken and we need a new way. And you hear about it and read about it all the time.
Wow. And it's got to
So-
it's got to hit home with you when you do read about it, or when you do see it, that it actually is something that you went through, that you can help others. But
Yeah.
how do
but
you do
What
that?
advice would you
Yeah.
give?
You guys, I feel like there's not really a safe space for these kids. And so yeah, at some point we got to fix that. We have to be better, because these kids that report the abuse, but then they still have to go home to it. And at some point, the families are notified. And then what happens? It's literally like a cycle. And it's so hard to get these kids out of like abusive homes. And then they just end up bouncing around. So at some point, you're like, well, I might as well stay where I know until I can do something on my own. And that's kind of like what I did. So at 15, I just removed myself, and I knew I wanted to graduate high school. So
did you run away?
Yeah, I didn't have to run away.
Okay.
So yeah, I just like moved out.
Wow.
And yeah.
That was your way of breaking
look at
the
you
cycle.
now. Exactly. I was going to say, in our world, we were talking about culture, being Native American Indian. The biggest thing is getting stuck like in this cycle that just keeps happening and keeps repeating itself when it's bad, and being brave enough to step out into that and create your own circle, your own. And I've known that as a kid when I was 8. So I got out of Oregon as fast as I could. I had a great home life, parents who loved me, support me, all that. But I knew if I wanted to be something bigger and better than what I was, and baseball was all I knew at the time, when that was taken away, I had to find my own way.
That desire for more, though, that desire for a better life.
Something different.
Did you feel like you had to move to remove yourself from?
I did, because you get stuck in it. So I did. I got in my car and I drove to LA, and we talked about this yesterday. I lived in my car for 3 months, and I had saved money, had a job, all that stuff. So, but I found my way. I found my path, and I found a way to be creative and being. I was an actor, then musician, and musicians where I'm at, and now I have a podcast, and we're sitting here talking about your story. So the journey itself, I broke that cycle, and I've done my own thing. Same with you, and it's inspiring. So that's incredible, and that's a side of you I did not know or see or could read about, if looking you up, which was incredible. So thank you for sharing that, and hopefully that helps somebody else out there.
Was there ever a time when things just got too overwhelming or too hard, or you're just like, wow, I'm in over my head, I don't know if I can do this anymore?
Probably not. I mean, maybe like at times, like we all like question, but I think I ended up getting married young. So I got married like 2 days after I turned 18.
Oh, wow.
And then had 2 kids before I was 21. So I think starting a family early on, like failure just wasn't an option for me.
Yeah.
So my girls have literally been the driving force behind me. So the days that you want to give up, like it's just not an option. So, we have days where we don't want to get out of bed. Well, I have to get out of bed. So, because I know that there's something greater than me and they need me.
Yeah. There's people depending on you.
Yeah. So I always say they're like my saving grace. Yeah. So sometimes when I talk to people that are going through like tough times, like they have to find something that's greater than themselves. You know what I mean? To where like my kids, I think were that for me.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, and you're able to give them a life that you didn't get.
Right.
And what it could be.
But it's interesting because if you talk to them, like their perception is so different.
Really?
How so?
Yeah, like I always, being a single mom, so we divorced when they were like younger. I want to say like 5 and 6, but so that was like very traumatic for them. So our traumas are all different. So when that being their trauma, sometimes which is, not the healthiest thing, but I compare their traumas to mine and I laugh like inside, like, if that's all the trauma you have in this, life,
nothing.
But it's still like very real and hard for them. But I've had people, throughout that entire time always say, you're such a good mom. You're such a good mom. Like, when I have kids, I'm going to do this, or people come to me for advice. But I always think, I'm like, you know what? It's great to hear like you're a good mom from everyone else, but I want to know that my kids think I'm a good mom.
Right.
Like that's what
matters.
hits home to me.
Yeah.
So if you ask them, like, I know I did a good job. I know that like I did the best I could in the situation that I was given. But sometimes I wonder if maybe I gave a little too much. So I feel like I was hard on them. And if you ask them, they'll say, you were way too strict. I'm never going to do like X, Y, and Z. But yeah, like I don't know. I figured it out, and
that's being a parent is figuring it out along the way. It really is.
We don't know. There's no like
they say there's a
instruction
roadmap.
manual.
Exactly.
And every kid is so different.
Yeah.
So one, like I could discipline this one, but I look at this one and she starts crying. So the same thing doesn't work for the same kid because they have such different personalities.
Yeah.
So it was always a challenge.
That's incredible.
What advice would you give to a little girl or a little boy out there who looks up to you?
Ooh, I don't know. Never give up. Like, you're going to have hard days for sure. And I always say like one foot in front of the other. Sometimes it's like 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, but every day we wake up with a new set of feelings. So it's just getting through that minute, that hour.
That's so, you say that and it resonates with me because today we could be motivated and excited and everything. You wake up tomorrow and that motivation is not there. It's not the same as it was.
Like, what the hell happened?
Yeah, I was on fire yesterday and I can't get out of bed. So it's great advice because we have to get up and we have to keep moving forward.
It's in that action.
Yep. It's showing up and taking
Those are the days that we really need to like embrace the feels because that's the higher power. I really truly telling us to like, hey, slow down.
Right.
Like it's okay, and those are the moments that we have to have like faith in. This is where I'm supposed to be. So we have to embrace those feels to appreciate our high moments. Because if we were high 24/7,
then
it would mean nothing.
Nothing.
Right.
Then it becomes a norm, and that norm we're chasing something else, and that's not that.
So those are the days we just have to like embrace it and be like, it's okay, because you know what, tomorrow's the new fucking day, and I'm gonna crush it.
Yes,
I love it.
that.
I love it. So one more time, because we're gonna wrap this up, but one more time, your podcast. Share it with
Tell
everybody
what you're working on.
It's Dating Intelligence. So check us out on social media, YouTube. We're on all the major platforms. My host is amazing. Shout out to Christopher Lewis.
He's awesome. I hugged him yesterday in the hallway.
Yeah.
And we found out we were stalking each other, and it was so much fun. Yeah. So he's great too. And I love watching, like your guest yesterday.
Which one?
The guy that looked like he had a shirt on, but he was completely tatted up.
Yeah.
I didn't see him.
You guys, it was our first guest that came in topless.
Yeah.
Stay tuned,
for real,
you guys.
but he was so tatted up it looked like a shirt.
Think he had clothes on,
yeah,
but
and he didn't.
Oh my God.
It was crazy.
So Chris looked over at me a couple times, and when we left that day, he goes, I looked at you, and he goes, and I hope the cameras weren't on your face. I go, was it that bad? He goes, I knew. I was like, I think I'm on my own on this one. It was just a little extra, and I'm like, and then just listening, it's so crazy how, we all have just different lives.
Wow.
But yeah.
You'll have to stay tuned for that one.
Yeah, I know.
So
it was chaotic in here, and I saw that and just stopped me in my tracks.
Like he requested, I don't even know what it's called, but he wanted a pillow, and he wanted to sit in, what is that?
Like lotus?
Lotus.
Okay.
He said, I would like and there's a name for the pillow there, so I can sit in lotus position during the podcast.
Wow.
And I was like,
did he have a writer too?
yeah, he's written a couple books.
No,
I mean like a writer, backstage writer.
Like gummy bears,
M&Ms,
only the red and green ones.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Exactly. Well, Jamie didn't do that to us, so that's good.
No.
No,
Tell everybody where they can find you.
My social media is Jamie_Villamor, and you can find me on Instagram.
So thank you so much, Jamie, for being with us. This is amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
I can't believe I pass you here all the time, and Danielle's the one who gets you as a guest.
No, I gotta find your socials.
Yeah, we'll swap it.
Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. So, anything before we go?
Thank you so much. Anything else you want to say to anybody out there watching? Any piece of
No.
advice or anything
If you
wanna
guys have any
close with?
questions, I always try and like answer all my DMs. So feel free to slide in my DM.
And did you
Slide
see
out.
that? Jamie broke the fourth wall. She's looking at that camera at you at home. She was, yeah, she's like, slide in my
see you.
DMs. Yeah. So, yeah, that was awesome. Well, thank you, Jamie. This is a Hero's Journey podcast with Brian Hopkins and Danielle Vasanova. And we want to thank our boy, Chase, our producer. Thank you, buddy.
Chase.
Anytime, buddy.
All right. Well, you guys, remember, you're the hero of your own story. And go out, chase it. You heard it from Jamie. Just show up every day, make it happen. We'll see you next time.
Dream, and I believe it's coming around to me.